When discussing the Clone Wars, we often jump straight to the conclusion, which was the collapse of the Separatist Alliance and the rise of the Galactic Empire. And the Star Wars franchise is relatively vague on just how the Separatists went from a galaxy-wide superpower to losing the war. On this channel alone, we've speculated countless times reasons for this, from poorly made soldiers, flawed battle plans, and just how the Republic was not really ready for the war in the initial stages. However, there is one pretty pivotal event that did happen, which will have undoubtedly played a pretty big role in the downfall of the CIS, and that is finance. Now, if you're anything like me, that word probably makes you prematurely feel incredibly bored. However, I promise we're going to have some pretty interesting points coming up. So, as we know, the Separatist Alliance was largely financed by the Council, which was made up of incredibly wealthy business tycoons. And that's normally as deep as we go. We just assumed that the pockets of this group were bottomless, and they just kept forking over again and again. However, this isn't the case. Realistically, the amount of money these individuals had is pretty questionable. Now, they were insanely rich by all standards. However, majority of their wealth is in assets, factories, trading fleets, R&D, etc. These were businessmen, and like nearly all good business people, a good amount of this will have been financed through leverage. So leverage is an accounting term, which means the amount of assets that are financed by debt. Now, debt is in no means a bad thing when correctly managed. It allows a company to grow considerably faster than it would be able to if it was financing themselves through retained profits. We have to imagine that when the Separatists decided that they were going to build massive droid armies and fleets, they went to the banks and asked them for a ton of debt. Debt that would be paid back upon them winning the war. And realistically, when the Trade Federation or Techno Union asks you for a loan, nearly every bank will be more than happy to give them favourable terms. They were good debtors, and nearly everything that they touched turned a profit. They really are the ideal people to lend to, so the banks will have been lending them a fortune. Interestingly enough, this also explains why on numerous cases the Separatists were very eager to plunder annexed worlds for anything of value. I believe that a lot of this was done to keep up with payments on their debts. However, as we know, in 19 BBY, Dooku under Palpatine's orders launched an invasion of Scipio, the seat of the intergalactic banking clan, the single largest neutral bank in the galaxy, which resulted in a Republic counterattack, and the bank's been placed under the control of the Senate, or more specifically, Palpatine. And this was essentially cutting off the money tap. The Separatist source of finance was gone. Granted, they didn't have to pay their debts back anymore, but they needed that money. In my opinion, this must have been the beginning of the end for the CIS. You see, they needed this money, and it's one of the only sources of finance they had. Now, you might be thinking, so what, they're still insanely rich, and yes, however, for how much longer? The tycoons suffered under the Clone Wars. Essentially, they lost a lot of their ability to trade anywhere, as legally accounts and property were all been seized by the Republics as enemy assets. This means the core business that they owned and ran will have suffered. You can imagine that a lot of these businesses' assets were quickly becoming liabilities as revenue dropped. And yes, some of these companies did remain somewhat functioning with the Republic, such as the Trade Federation and Techno Union. However, the war did severely damage this relationship. What I'm saying is, they'll have lost a lot of money. But this isn't the only way you can have money. What if they sold assets? Good point. Big companies like the Techno Union must have countless factories and ships to sell for quick cash to inject into the war chest. Well, who are they going to sell that to, though? Other tycoons on the council were in no place to buy assets, and it was pointless to sell to them anyway. And most other systems and companies wouldn't go near them with a barge pole. It looked far too much like sympathising with an enemy of the Republic. Neutral systems wouldn't do it because it would look like they were taking sides, and no one in the Republic would do it because they're literally the enemy and it was probably illegal. Another idea businesses may do is to seek investment from the people, let them buy stocks. And although I have no clue if the businesses in the Star Wars universe even have stocks, etc., this again was not an option for the Separatists. Remember, the Separatists were generally formed from poor worlds and systems in the Outer Rim. These people probably didn't have much interest in buying stock, and even if they did, they really wouldn't have had the finance to do so. They were probably more interested in farming and trying to survive the next year, as opposed to trying to navigate the difficulties of intergalactic business. And all of the big investors, etc., will likely have been located in the core worlds, firmly under the control of the Republic. And again, no investor who lives in the Republic and who operates in the Republic is going to go anywhere near a Separatist company. It's a surefire way to bring Republic scrutiny straight to your doorstep. Ultimately, I believe that once the invasion of Scipio happened, the Separatist alliance was a ticking time bomb. These tycoons were forced to watch not only as the war turned sour, as they could no longer afford to finance troops, ships, and the entire war effort, but they also had to watch as the businesses that they had worked so hard for, that had made them so powerful, just become massive financial burdens, a shadow of their former selves. And they couldn't even finance their own business's survival, let alone the war effort. But what do you guys think? Does this make sense? And how should the Separatists have funded the war effort without the help of the banking clan? And how should they have protected their companies? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching. I do hope that you enjoyed this video. If so, please remember to like, share and sub, as it is really appreciated and it helps the channel grow. Also, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at TheLoreGuy and tick the bell for regular updates. But most importantly, thank you so much for watching. I really do hope that you enjoyed and are having a great day, and I'll see you next time.